To Epstein or not to Epstein? That is the question. I did a poll earlier today as we do these top of the hour teases on Salem News Channel. I said, how many of you want us to keep talking about the extra Epstein drama and controversy? How many of us want us to move on? How many of you want us to move on? And about 80%, I'd say, said move on. The left wants this drama. Look at these headlines. Oh, Trump is really worried. Oh, he's scared now. Oh, yeah, he's real scared. Trump's a real scaredy cat. The guy that gets shot and stands up and thrusts his fist in the air and says, fight, fight, fight. He's a real coward. Nice try. But the bottom line is this division does hurt the Trump agenda. And the question is going to be for how long and how much? People are frustrated. People are scratching their heads. People are annoyed. I get it. I totally do. And I've always believed in showcasing every point of view. I'm not a host that likes to talk down to his audience. I don't think I'm particularly condescending. I'd like to believe it's why the show has had the measure of success that it has had. I think I know this audience. And I know that there are people who are frustrated that it seemed that there was going to be some accountability for crimes committed on Epstein Island, and now it appears there is not. President Trump wants clearly for the world to move on. He trusts Pam Bondi. He trusts Kash Patel. He trusts Dan Bongino. And he expects and hopes that we trust him. And I do. There's all this desperate reporting. Oh, Trump made calls. He called Charlie Kirk. I don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea. I know Charlie says he trusts people in the administration, and Charlie has accepted the premise of moving on. And I did get a text from somebody today who said, I think the right thing to do is stick a pin in it for now and see if anything else comes out. But let's stop ignoring all of the successes that the Trump administration is delivering. That's what the Trump haters don't want. They don't want any acknowledgement of all the Supreme Court victories that the Trump administration is getting, of a sealed border. They don't want any of that. They don't want mass deportation. They don't want people rounded up who are criminals. You know what they want? They want divisiveness. They want MAGA to implode. Meanwhile, Trump is off celebrating with FIFA soccer players and having a good time and celebrating the achievements of this administration. There was an article in the New York Times which really intrigued me. It was an opinion piece by a guy named David Litt, and I really appreciated it. It was an opinion that said that he felt in the past, the writer felt it was his duty to be rude to his brother-in-law, because his brother-in-law is a conservative. I met Matt in 2012. It was immediately clear we had nothing in common, he writes. He lifted weights to death metal. I jogged to Stephen Sondheim. I was one of Obama's speechwriters. He was a huge Joe Rogan fan. He went on to get his electrician's license. He went on to say that since this guy was a vaccine skeptic, he felt it was his civic duty to be rude to him. He said it was his job to ostracize him because he was anti-mandate and anti-vaccine, and what kind of person would do that? And then he writes in the article that they started to change their relationship. And he became more open-minded about people who don't see the world the way he does. And he writes, this former Obama speechwriter writes, my advice is always the same. Our differences are meaningful, but allowing them to mean everything is part of how we ended up here. When we cut off contacts or let algorithms sort us into warring factions, we forget that not so long ago, we used to have things to talk about that didn't involve politics. Shunning one another plays into the hands of demagogues, making it easier for them to divide us, even in some cases to incite violence. There are, of course, some people so committed to odiousness that it defines them. But for most people like that, in an age when banishment backfires, keeping the door open to unlikely friendship isn't a betrayal of principles, it's an affirmation of them. Look, Greg Gutfeld tore into this guy. Greg went after him and mocked him. Oh, you like Stephen Sondheim and you're a hole and all that. And I get that reaction, I guess, but I look at this a little bit differently. I appreciate somebody recognizing that shunning each other over politics inevitably does backfire. And look, I've experienced this, and I'll tell you this. In my personal life, I'll give you two examples. I've been shunned, and I shunned somebody else. So I'm guilty of this. I've had a years-long friend who has stopped talking to me because of my support for President Trump and my status as a registered Republican. Just stopped talking to me after the election. Known him for years. And I admit it's kind of hurtful. We've had a generous friendship. I've been very generous to him over the years. He's been kind to me over the years and generous. I guess that friendship is over. I have another friend who blasted me the morning after the election, tearing into me by text. And we mostly talk now by text. And I attempted to be gracious to her. I said, look, I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm sorry the election didn't go the way you wanted it to go. And she kept attacking me. I blocked her. There's a funny little feature on your phone. It's called block. You never have to hear from that person again. And that's what I did. And that's sad too, because I've known her for many years. This article about should we snub one another, should we shun one another, I think is pretty valuable. And I don't want to make fun of the guy because he is an elitist Democrat Obama speechwriter who listens to show tunes. I appreciate a guy trying to find a little bit of common ground and realizing that it was a mistake for him to treat his brother-in-law like a horse's ass. Because the horse's ass was the guy from the New York Times, not the brother-in-law. The horse's ass, frankly, is the person, the years-long friend of mine, who has shunned me and decided to stop talking to me. And I will admit, I'm the horse's ass for shunning the person that I shunned, who was blowing up my phone with ugly text messages, attacking me for who I voted for. I don't know if we can find any common ground. I don't know if there's any hope or not, but I do appreciate, and I'm going to play the Greg Gutfeld part of his response to this writer, David Litt, in the New York Times. I want you to hear why he thinks this guy is suddenly coming around. It's almost like some of them on the left are saying, look, these guys on the right were right all along about the Trump presidency. But let me get your take on it as well. 800-655-MIKE as we kick things off for a Tuesday. And again, I'm not going to shun you if you're upset about the Epstein scandal. We can talk a little bit about it. I'm all right with that. There's a lot of influencers who are saying it's time to move on. I agree that we will move on, whether you like it or not. You may not like that message, but I never want to shut you down. So feel free to join us here in the Relief Factor studios as we kick off a Tuesday. 800-655-MIKE, 800-655-6453. Join us. Opinion, should I snub my right-wing relatives? Before we take your calls on this article by this column over at the New York Times by David Litt, who's a former Obama speechwriter, who seems to be saying, hey, man, it's not a good idea to snub people and to shun people. over political differences. Here was Greg Gutfeld's response on his show last night on Fox News. I didn't play. I'm not playing the whole thing. The first part of it is him making fun of the guy for listening to Sondheim, and he's an elitist, out of touch a-hole, and blah blah blah. But here's what Greg says is the reason that suddenly somebody who writes over at the New York Times is having a change of heart about people like you and me.
The U.S. had a budget surplus of $27 billion last month, the first June surplus in years. Prices are down, stocks are roaring, wages are up, and the big, beautiful bill is law. The border's sealed, violent illegals are getting the boot. He's trashed Iran's nuclear capabilities and rooted out wasteful spending. Hell, he even convinced Rosie to get the hell out. Now, I could go on, but I left the baby with a brand new set of lawn darts. But among Republicans, Trump is the most popular president in history because he's winning. And the left would prefer you supporting a loser. Hell, they've done that plenty of times. But Trump is kicking their asses mentally and physically. In fact, his foot is making such regular contact, they're all suffering from athlete's butt. But maybe the New York Times is starting to suspect they don't speak for America anymore and never did. Maybe they're realizing that your average Trump-loving electrician could be smarter, more resilient, and better at community than the guy with the show tune playlist. The truth is, they need us more than we need them. When a street gang surrounds you, no one's ever yelled, "Quick, belt out some tunes from West Side Story." But Democrats, you can't unburn the bridge that you proudly torched in 2020. Those of us on the right, what you call the political lepers, are just fine over here by ourselves. So keep waving a limp olive branch. But until you admit you were wrong and apologize, you can stick that branch where the sun don't shine. And given the number of on your side, you got plenty of places to stick it.
You know, it's kind of a satisfying monologue, but in a way, this writer does apologize for shunning his own brother-in-law. You know, Greg says, until you apologize and say you were wrong, well, you could read this article. Maybe you have a different take on it from me, but that's kind of what this guy does. Bobby's in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Bobby, welcome to the show. How are you? Bobby, you there?
Yes.
Hey there.
Humility is hard.
How are you?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Step right up.
I am. I have a solution to all of this horror that I've seen during many years. And I sit back and I observe. 12-step program. We need to apologize to each other. We are all creations in Christ. We are all made the same way, just different attributes.
I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, let's say, I'm not sure people are going to be in the mood to do that, but shunning people, not a great idea. Quickly, I'm trying to get as many voices on here as we can. David in Chicago. David, how are you?
Hi, good morning, Mr. Goder.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
Hi. I just wanted to say two things. First and foremost, what was this guy's name? Nitwit that writes for the
David Litt.
Lit. So I believe it's you, sir. I think it's you, and I stole this from you. If it is, if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. And so I wouldn't. No, it's a virtue signaling ploy, like they always do. Like, look at us, we're great. Da da da. That's just my take on the whole thing. And the second thing being. With the Epstein thing, oh my God, that's become so yesterday's news so long ago. I can't understand why anybody's still talking about it.
So you want to move on? You want to move on?
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, David. One open line, 800-655-MIKE. Steve in Dayton, Ohio. Steve, what do you think?
Well, I think that the problem is more basic than just not snubbing each other. It seems to me the problem is backing up a little bit. In any society, you've got three basic institutions, three that are just there, no underlying predicate. The first one is a family institution, the second one is a religious institution, and the third one is a civic institution. And basically the religious institution, among other things, sets society's values, and politics is supposed to operate within the civic institution.
Interesting way of looking at it. Steve, I like the way you think. More coming up. One open line, 800-655-MIKE.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.